Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us across the planet. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for being a part of this summit. Welcome to this employment panel, this employer panel, but also if you missed our keynote address with Clem, just an astoundingly fantastic keynote address, inspiration stuff. So please go and check that out. Now, in case you missed this morning's welcome, my name's Orion Kelly. I'm autistic and I'm your MC. I'll be host of some sessions over the next couple of days. Now, this particular session will be moderated by the man, the myth, the machine, Michael Fieldhouse, DXC Technology's social impact practice leader and director of cybersecurity and executive for DXC's Dandelion program. But before we do hand over to Michael, just a couple of some housekeeping issues for you. So if you'd like to let us know during the conversation a question you may have, well, you do have the opportunity, okay, to submit text questions. You just type your questions into the Q&A pane, okay? You can access that pane by clicking on the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, there should be a Q&A tab. There should also be, I believe, a survey tab. Just want to clear up, the Q&A tab isn't like when you're on a standard Zoom and you go in the chat window and it's a way of like saying, you know, hey, I like your shirt, Orion. Wow, Orion, you're so attractive. Oh, I can't believe how good Orion is. I mean, I appreciate that. No one's done that, but that's not what it's for. So the Q&A icon, you click on that, that's specifically and only for entering in questions you would like posed to the panelists. If you'd like to interact with someone else, be that, tell me about my shirt or other people, then that's totally fine. You can just schedule a meeting, an appointment by clicking on the homepage, and then you can just schedule that. So I think we've got to the bottom of that. Thank goodness. You can also, if you'd like, you have a question for a particular panelist, we'll just make sure you include their name in the question, okay? Other people's questions will appear in the Q&A pane once they've been approved by our moderators. If you'd like a question, and you want to see that answered as well, you can just give it an upvote by clicking on the arrow beside it, okay? It's like crowdfunding the question. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but depending on how many come through, we may not be able to get through all of them. Okay, so let's get this session underway. Michael Fieldhouse, over to you, my friend.
Thanks, Orion. I'll tell you what, I do love this T-shirt, so I am a fan. So I would welcome everyone, and good morning and good evening as well to Rajesh, who's joining us from the US. And I'd like to kind of really welcome this fabulous panel. And it's really a critical to really understanding, especially people running programs and employers themselves, to actually really understand some of the kind of things that make things work and what are some of the things they've learned. I'd like to ask all our panelists to come online now. So if we could, get on video, and I'd love to do a quick introduction to our panelists, and then I'll go through a little bit of their program and about how long it's been going for, number of participants and what types of positions. But I would like to just run through quickly who we have on our panel. So we have Andrew Baird from ANZ Bank. We have Sahida from SAP. We have Kirsty Richards as well from SunPork. We have Kerry Davis from the Department of Home Affairs, and we have Cherie Martin as well from Services Australia, and we do have Rajesh and from Ultranauts. Thank you. So maybe I'll kind of kick it off and ask Andrew to kind of give us a little bit about what his program, and then we'll kind of move to Sahida Fawley to give her kind of a bit of a view of her program and some of the successes of that. But Andrew, why don't you just kick it off for us? Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm Andrew Baird from ANZ. So we've been running our program for 3.5 years, and it sits within technology within our workforce tribe, which is around early talent into the organisation, specifically in tech. I'm also involved with our grads and intern programs as well. So it all fits into our strong early talent program. So yeah, 3.5 years ago, we started with 9 people across testing and cybersecurity. Since that time, we've had 17 people through our program, and some great success in that we've had 10 of those 17 become permanent employees of ANZ across those 3 years. 2 of them have left, For whatever reasons, they needed to leave, and 5 are still on the program who we're still upskilling, and they're working in data at the moment. Most of our success has been in security, where we've actually placed 4 of those 10 as well, closely followed by the data services area. And that's a lot of, bit of coding, data science, data analytics as well. Currently, we're recruiting for 2 positions, but due to COVID, we haven't done a large intake. So we're really only got 2 positions available. And the reason for that is we want people to be supported in this uncertain time. So we think two we can manage, they'll be best supported, and we'll see how that goes. And we hope, vaccination rates will increase, and next year we can have a larger cohort. So that's pretty much about our program. So I'll hand over.
Thanks, Andrew. So Heather Frawley from SAP. At SAP in 2013, we launched the program globally to increase the percentage of individuals in our workforce on the autism spectrum globally. At SAP now, we have more than 200 colleagues on the autism spectrum in our business across 27 different roles, across 16 different countries and 34 different locations. But locally here in Australia and New Zealand, we launched the program in 2016, focused on hiring neurodiverse university students across various functions in our business, including project management support, finance, and our bid management process. In 2018, we expanded the program to New Zealand, where we hired 4 neurodiverse colleagues in our development team there. Through the program already, in ANZ, we've had 10 individuals who formally been through the program, but also a few individuals that, as a result, have self-identified across our business as being neurodiverse. And this program is helping to build an open and inclusive culture for them. So not just those that are coming into the program, but those in our organisation that are identifying. For us, the 3 main reasons that we launched the program locally, the first being just new perspectives and thinking. Those that are neurodiverse bring new thinking and perspectives to the way we work and our creative process. We value diverse, authentic approaches. We're, a software company, and we're driving innovation all the time. So wanting to make sure that we brought that to the table, which, is probably the second point, which is fostering the innovation, that new perspective in the industry that we work in, that constant change, that different way of looking at things is certainly something that we see a benefit from in bringing in those into our workforce who are neurodiverse. And then the third really being, it allows us to tap into an underutilised talent pool. We all, and certainly in the technology sector at the moment, everybody is talking with COVID about their digital transformations and where they're going. And in an environment where even pre-COVID, there was always a war on talent. For us, it's a different way of recognising skills that people have and bringing that into our talent pool currently. Like Andrew, COVID, slowed us down a little bit last year as we were more focused on just all our employees, including those that are neurodiverse, how do we steady the ship? But right now we're integrating our Autism at Work program into an early talent program within our services business in ANZ. So part of a mainstream program that we're running for early talent, both in ANZ and in our region, in APJ. And we've agreed as part of that program that we will dedicate a number of headcount to hire those who are neurodiverse as part of what we're calling our student training and rotation program, STAR program. So we'll be introducing that. We are about to start the hiring process for an intake for next year. So we're certainly looking to take on at least 2 candidates in Brisbane. So we're picking office locations as well. And that's part of the journey of making sure that we support and structure our teams to support those individuals. So that's where we're at. I'd like to hand over to Kirsty, I think.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Kirsty Richards, and since 2016, I've been leading the Autism and Agriculture program at SunPork Farms here in Australia. Bit of background, SunPork Farms is an Australian-owned pork production enterprise. We own around 500,000 pigs, and this represents around 20% of Australian pork production. So our business operates across 51 largely regional locations in Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia and in Victoria. And this includes pig farms, feed mills and pork processing facilities. So around about 3% of our animal care attendants are on the autism spectrum. They're highly motivated, they're committed, they're very capable individuals that we feel very honoured to have on our team. We know as a business that our traditional recruitment practices are very poorly suited to otherwise capable individuals on the autism spectrum. We also know that workplace understanding of autism is often poor and that this can create additional barriers. At SunPork, over the last 5 years, what we've tried to do in collaboration with Autism CRC is to recognise and address these barriers. So our recruitment program actually includes 2 weeks of on-farm training that allows individuals to learn and show us what they can do rather than have to sell it to us or tell it. We focus very heavily on awareness and understanding of autism in our workplaces to promote inclusion and support. And we recognise the importance of tasking individuals to their strengths, of offering flexibility in our workplace, of providing mentors and buddies, and importantly for us, particularly in the regional context, of making sure there's adequate support outside the workplace. For SunPork, our Autism and Agriculture program has really demonstrated to us that shifting away from a traditional recruitment paradigm and focusing on people's strengths, on inclusion, on equity, and ultimately on prioritising people over positions, people over process, people over systems, it really can work. And I guess we'd also argue, as Clem noted in her keynote previously, that doing these things actually makes a better workplace for everyone, not just your autistic employees. We see the program for our business as a tremendous investment, both in the business, in our culture, in our people, their families, and again, back to the communities that we support. Our autistic employees really are part of a team that values and recognises them for who they are. We currently have 10 employees working permanently in our business. Some of them are in regional South Australia, some are in regional Queensland. In addition, we've had another 8 who've come through our program and have moved on to other areas of employment, including in the cattle industry. And again, as the previous speakers have noticed, COVID really has slowed us down over the last couple of years, but we hope as life returns to normal that we'll really see our program grow into the future. And I'd just like to say thank you for having us on the panel this morning.
Hey, Kerry, do you want to kick us a little bit off about the Department of Home Affairs program?
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, hi, my name is Kerry Davis. I'm the Relationship Manager for the Dandelion program in the Department of Home Affairs. We commenced the program in 2016 and delivered a contracting testing service to enhance the departmental's diversity, culture and reputation as a workplace of choice. In 2017, we had 11 trainees over 3 years. 2019, we've undertaken 5 trainees over 2 years, and this year we have 2 contracted and 1 APS trainee with the department. The department has enjoyed having the staff with us. We've learnt a lot. The staff have become very much part of the teams that we're having. We've managed to put them into teams where they're very supported. Presently, the 2017 cohort, we have employed on a full-time basis. We have employed 8 of the trainees that they've won full-time positions, and they're working in the testing environment as we speak. We were talking about COVID earlier. We've actually managed to be able to provide the equipment necessary for the trainees to actually work from home, and they've been extremely productive, and they've integrated within the teams undertaking information sessions, catch-ups, and completing their work on time and in great detail. So the cohort 2017 cohort haven't really been affected greatly apart from working from home, and through the support of our team leads plus our autism counsellor, we've been able to provide support from home as well. One of the social impacts that we have found is that these guys and gals were in a long-term unemployment and are on disability pensions or New Start allowances. And we have just been amazed that of the 10 that were living at home, 3 now have bought their own apartments, they're living independently, they're driving cars, they've got licenses. So they've actually been given the opportunity to work and develop as would any other non-neurodiverse person. So we've been thrilled with the outcomes of the program. The efficiency and effectiveness of their testing has been of great benefit. So we're keen to keep running the program. This year, we've had one employee who has now enjoyed so much the program that they're actually completing their Bachelor of Computer Science and they're receiving really high grades. So it just shows you the calibre of the staff that have been provided and their abilities to undertake their role and responsibility. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry.
Thanks, Kerry. It's Cherie Martin here from Services Australia. So Services Australia has hosted two groups of Dandelion participants in information technology here in Brisbane. So Dandelion is a program that provides meaningful employment opportunities for autistic people. The Dandelion programs hosted in Services Australia have been 3-year programs focusing on software testing. However, some of our participants have moved from test engineers into developer roles as part of the natural progression of their career pathways. So our first Dandelion program group had 13 participants and ran from 2015 to 2018. And our second group of 10 participants started in 2019 and will finish in November this year. So participants completing the program are independently moving between projects and teams. And in the last 6 months, 9 participants have used the experience gained during their employment with us in external employment opportunities and gained successful employment elsewhere, for example, within Services Australia ourselves and in other government agencies, state, federal, and we have 3 participants that have been successful in permanent employment within the private enterprise. Recruitment from our diverse talent pool is well established at Services Australia. And other divisions within the agency participate in other autism and neurodiversity programs, both in ICT and non-ICT roles. But specifically here in Brisbane, we have been focusing specifically on the Dandelion program. So locally in the last 12 months, we have sharpened our focus in recognising that in addition to the participants of the program working in our teams, there are so many others of our employees and contractor staff that are undisclosed and undiagnosed staff within our teams who are also neurodiverse. So we've worked over the last 5-6 years, we've worked consistently with our support teams to create a SharePoint site of information and resources about neurodiversity and ways of making our teams processes more inclusive. We have run autism awareness training for our teams and leaders, and we've also created an internal social network to encourage connectedness and social support within the workplace. Thank you.
Michael, should I?
Yep, yes, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rajesh, and I'm then one of the founders at Ultranauts. Ultranauts is a software and data quality engineering services firm. We founded the company in 2013, so we've been around for about 8 years. And as a firm, we're on a mission to demonstrate that neurodiversity can be a competitive advantage for business. And our theory of change is simply to first build a world-class business that can be commercially viable and competitive. And secondly, do that in a way that reimagines how a company operates, from how we hire talent to how we manage teams, to how we communicate with each other, to how we learn and develop careers, so that a much wider range of humans with different unique strengths can collaborate together and drive value for the business, and then take everything we've learned along the way and share it with others, so that the path to embracing neurodiversity can be a lot quicker and more effective for other employees. So today we have, we're all in North America, so we're not in Australia, unfortunately. And we have teammates in 29 states across the US. 3/4 of our entire team is autistic. And that's not just our engineers and analysts, it's the whole company, whether it's colleagues on the leadership team, my colleagues who lead HR or outreach, our PMs, our engineering leads. And I should also say we're neurodivergent in many ways. Many of our colleagues are ADHDers, many are dyslexics, many are neurodivergent in multiple ways. And we fundamentally believe that by bringing together different brain types, different problem-solving styles, different information processing models, and forging collaborative teams, we can do better. We could solve more complex problems. We could surface more unique insights and drive improvement in a more continuous way. In our case, all through the lens of improving software and data quality. But we believe that this model applies, as you're hearing from the rest of the panel, to any industry, to any vertical. And our results prove that our thesis is correct, in that we've been growing at 50 to 60% every year. We've gone head to head with large, more typical global consulting firms and displaced them at Fortune 500 clients. Our clients include the likes of Goldman Sachs, Warner Media, Disney, Slack. It sounds like a who's who of industry. Not one of them hired us because we're neurodiverse. They all brought us in because their chief information officer, chief data officer had a hard problem to be solved, and they thought we could solve it, and we've been able to solve it, and we stick around. And the journey we've been on is less to establish a hiring initiative or a diversity program. It's really to reimagine every aspect of the workplace, from the tools we use to communicate, to the practices and processes we have to manage work, to the norms we have around communication, in a more universal way, so that everyone can use their strengths and participate more fully. Because when we do that, we know that as a team, we're going to win. And so we're happy to share what we've learned along the way and be part of the panel today.
Thanks, Rajesh. And maybe kick off with the first question I have. I know we've been talking a lot about COVID, so I think I might as well, that's kind of the elephant in the room at the moment, so especially here. So I think we're very keen to probably, maybe Sahida, if you kind of give us a little bit about how COVID's impacted you, and maybe how things you can, maybe how you've pivoted as well through this process with your program.
Thanks, Michael. And it is interesting managing change with COVID, and I think it's not just for our neurodiverse employees, I think it's for all of our employees. And I think there's this perception that those that are neurodiverse can't deal with change. Well, I reflect on the last 18 months, and I think when it comes down to it, it's how you manage and communicate the change. Since the pandemic, we've almost reverted to 100% remote working across our business in ANZ. So I'd say that surprisingly, our neurodiverse colleagues are dealing quite well with that change. And I think, as Kerry alluded to, we've set them up to work from home, as we have with all of our workforce, that ability to do that. And I think one of the key parts of that, and it was just something we were doing, or that was necessary because of COVID with all of our workforce, and that was the weekly communication from senior management and all the levels down, that we communicate regularly. And it really has meant with COVID that as an organisation we needed to ensure, and we pivoted to how we communicated. We became far more conscious about how we communicated, which has not only been helpful for all of our workforce, but has been helpful for those that are neurodiverse. I think setting expectations, understanding what's going on, that regular contact is key. What are the aspects that we, for us, maybe if I also talk about sustainability as we go forward, because that was one of the things that, we slowed down last year with our program, and more because we had to consider how would we hire in an environment where we were in constant lockdown or across the country, or across our market unit across Australia and New Zealand. So it really has made us pivot to see how we could integrate this more into our broader business. And for us broadly, we are globally, locally, on a huge campaign to increasing the early talent in our organisation. So we've looked at now the programs that we have in that space and how we can now bring our Autism at Work program into those programs. So as we're ramping up and doing hiring within our business with early talent, both in Australia and New Zealand, and I mentioned this STAR program that we're running, we will be engaging in that. But one of the things that's come out of that, and one of the things last year, when I mentioned the hiring process, I think for us critically reviewing our recruitment standards and what can we do differently when it comes to hiring to make sure we get the best out of our candidates is something that we'll make sure that we're bringing into the STAR program hiring piece, and we're working with our partner on that, with Andrew on that. But we, I'd reflect on this, maybe I also share what are the things that we'd like to make sure that we consider. And I think COVID has also not only made it impactful for all our employees, but for our neurodiverse employees. I think having the topic of mental health and the awareness around that is part of that. People remote working independently, the communication and mental health has to be something that we consider. So for me, there are probably a couple of success factors, and there'd be 5. I think we have to foster an inclusive mindset in our workforce. We have to think beyond the stereotypes and the bias around autism, and that comes down to selection of jobs and how we integrate them into our workforce. We have to educate and create awareness and acceptance. So part of that is who are the teams that they're working with and how do we make that happen? And we have to provide suitable support adjustments through the entire employment life cycle of the individual. So whether that be hiring process, whether that be when we're in the office, where they're sitting in the office because they prefer to have headphones on to minimise some of the stimulus going on around them, or whether it's the type of communication, how regular, how frequent we do that. And I'd also say one of our learnings has been partnering with inclusion experts, making sure we are seeking some of that advice and bringing that in, not just around the individuals that we employ who are neurodiverse, but in fact bringing that into the managers, the teams that they work with as well, to make sure we bring that into our program. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Ada. And maybe we're talking really a little bit about change, but Sherry, I mean, you've probably done one of the largest changes to underpin of Australia when you think about how Service Australia's had to scale to support through the times we've actually had in 2020 and 2021. Sherry, do you want to give that a little bit of give us your kind of thoughts and views about how the teams have actually had to deal and any learnings as well?
Yeah, sure. So as you're all aware, this pandemic hit in March last year. And really, it was one of those situations that no one could prepare for. And it just coincidentally, in Services Australia, the teams here, including our neurodiverse teams, were actually involved in building and software testing the job seeker payment, which was actually released 3 days before we went into lockdown in March last year. So as a result of that, obviously, you know, the amount of claims that were being processed, it was that the numbers were something that we'd never seen before in Services Australia. And I think the reactiveness that we had to apply to be able to support our Australian citizens that were in financial need was really critical, and also the professionalism that we had to display and the insurance on stabilising our production systems were so critical. So I guess so for us, with the Dandelion program, for me personally, it's really about building the independence, the confidence, the resilience and the adaptability of our neurodiverse participants. And the response to COVID-19 enabled the participants to actually demonstrate all of these skills in a variety of ways. So we were fortunate here in Brisbane where we were actually able to continue to come into the office daily. We didn't work from home. The routine didn't change, but each of the participants from our Dandelion program had to refocus and respond to our ICT team's response so quickly. Now, it was only until recently that we actually experienced our first true hard lockdown, and I know it is nowhere near to the scale as to what's happened in the rest of Australia at this time, but 8 days. However, not everyone here in Brisbane has access to a mobile device to be able to work from home. So when that hard lockdown request happened, we had to quickly dismantle the office to reassign desktops, monitors, cabling, to enable all our staff to be able to work from home, and that's including all our participants from the Dandelion programs. What really surprised me was the efficiency and the quick response that each of our Dandelion participants reacted to this, probably even more efficient than our neurotypical people in some cases. And certainly each and every one of them was able to set themselves up at home and continue with their daily activities with minimal disruption. Many of us at the best of times do not respond to change when it comes upon us so quickly, and especially when we do not have any time to prepare. So I was really proud for each of our participants of the program. They truly demonstrated their ability to adapt to the new environment. They demonstrated their resilience to the change and certainly respond and acted so calmly and efficiently during such a quick transition point in their lives. We even had some people that don't have internet access at home, which came as a surprise to some. So for those, we had to make special arrangements for them to be able to continue to come into the office, made sure that they were safe in doing so, and to be able to continue with their work. So it didn't matter what individual circumstance each of our participants were going through. Over the 3 years of the programs, we've been able to build their resilience and their adaptability to change. And they were able to respond to this change in such a professional way, which was amazing to see. So quite proud of everyone actually within the program and how they've grown from where they started to where they are today. A lot of the feedback that we've received is really around the social inclusion and the communication skills that they have gained during the program, and just the confidence that they've built, which has been demonstrated through the success where a number of them have been re-employed as permanent employees through other private and other government enterprises.
Well, thanks, Sherry. I mean, maybe I'm going to go to probably the other end of the globe, as we could say, Rajesh. Yeah, very keen to get your experience, obviously, from the US, and you're running very much a very large virtual business. We're probably one of the first founders into the virtual kind of business from neurodiversity. But yeah, very keen to get your learnings or any kind of anything you can share from your experiences.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, and I don't know if I'll have anything unique to add to what Sahida and Sherry were talking about. I would say for us operationally, nothing changed. We've been 100% remote and virtual from the beginning. So in a way, we had the luxury of time, 7 years of time to experiment with different practices and tools to build a fully remote team, and a team that was engaged and connected and productive. And so in that sense, not much changed when the world went virtual, although I will say, for those of you listening who are working remotely for the first time, this is not a fair test. You know, working from home, surrounded by fear and panic, with everybody else in your family also at home, is not working from home. It's a lot more pleasurable. That said, because of what was happening in the world around us, and I think Sahita mentioned this point, we had to, in a way, dial up some of the levers or the sort of knobs we had already put in place for our team. So we increased the frequency of different forums and support kind of interactions that we had. So, for example, like we would have a once a month team forum that was really a safe space for teammates to commiserate, that was hosted by one of our life coaches who was autistic himself. We switched that to be every week because waiting a month seemed like too long. So there were a number of things like that. You know, we removed caps on things like, you know, taking personal days off. If you needed time, take it. You don't need a diagnosis of COVID. Secondly, we multiplied the sort of channels for feedback, because, and this is probably true of any remote team, when you're remote, you're less secure. You don't know, you know, you're less likely to feel secure in knowing how you're doing. And that's true for our team as with any team. And so you're less likely then to raise your hand if something's not going well, if you need help, if you're in trouble, if you're struggling, and you're not walking into an office where others might notice that you're not doing well. And so having multiple release valves, if you would, that someone who's not doing well might be able to raise the flag so that a peer or a manager, you know, someone might notice, so that corrective action and help could be provided. So, for example, you know, we have a bot that pulls our team at the end of every workday. It's a DM. We cycle through about a dozen polls. Each poll is a dimension of well-being for our team that we've, you know, arrived at, and the results are published in real time. So it's like an HR survey going live all the time. It creates extreme accountability. So if a large group of teammates aren't doing well, we'll know immediately. We won't know who or why, but we'll know where to look in terms of an aspect of work that's not working out. We have a always on Q&A. You know, a lot of companies will have monthly town halls and you'll have an open forum for Q&A. Well, we have that all the time because you'll have questions not just once a month, and those questions get answered and you can submit those anonymously. We have a weekly kind of short survey that is not anonymous, that provides another chance for teammates to share. And there's just 3 questions. One of them is, how stressful was your week and why? And so if you're not feeling comfortable to ask for help, but you can signal that you might need help, that serves a great way to do that. So all this to say, multiplying the sort of channels or avenues for someone to provide feedback, ask for help, can be really helpful for a team. And then the third thing I would say is also just to not forget to have fun, because especially in stressful times, orchestrating moments of peak moments or moments of delight can be really helpful to relieve the stress and just help the team stay connected. So we do a bunch of, there are no silver bullets around this. We have, for example, we'll have contests that we're running all the time, like this month's contest, and they're silly. You know, this month's contest is post a picture of something that you love about your summer, and then everybody who posts a picture will enter to win some sort of gift certificate. It just creates engagement, and it allows people to share parts of their lives that they might not otherwise do. Or we have a cafeteria channel where it's like, it's all virtual. We live in Slack. You might live in Teams. We're all living in some virtual world. But it's a simple channel where it's like a real cafeteria. You can go in there, whenever you want and feel like taking a brain break, and it's intended for non-work related, unscheduled hangouts. I used to, be there every Thursday afternoon. So if you want to hang out with the CEO in the cafeteria, you knew where to find them and when. We have a different channel that's hosted by a bot named Donut, and we didn't build Donut. You can get Donut online, on Slack or Teams, and Donut will randomly pair people who subscribe to that channel for a virtual coffee every 2 weeks. And so if you're not the kind of person who will take the initiative to reach out and get to know your colleagues, just sign up to the Donut channel and you'll get paired once a week, or twice, once every 2 weeks. So all of this to say, I think the things that we had a lot of these practices in place, and so it was easy for us to just turn things up a notch, and it allowed us to get through the worst of COVID without falling apart. And I will say, one of the polls that the bot polls is around loneliness, and we've been measuring loneliness on our team for about 3 years now. Before COVID, 15% of our teammates reported feeling lonely at work. And that's actually not bad compared to the rest of the American workforce. Maybe Americans are just lonely, but the stats before COVID were 40% of American workers reported feeling lonely at work. So we were almost 3 times less lonely, we're a lot less lonely, even though we're fully virtual and incredibly diverse, not just in terms of neurodiversity, just along any dimension. After COVID, as a result of just dialing up some of these things and bringing the team closer, fewer than 10% of our team are reporting feeling lonely at work. And we're measuring stress, we're measuring anxiety, we're measuring loneliness, and all indicators actually moved in the right direction through COVID, because we just were able to implement these practices that in a way made routine a lot of the good habits that keep people connected and engaged and feeling safe.
Well, thanks, Rajesh, for your some insights from from the other end of the globe, and I really do appreciate that. I'll just maybe change it up a little notch, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to ask you, Kirst, to give us a bit of your thoughts about if you had your time again, what would you like to have actually known before starting your program?
Oh, geez. Thanks, Michael. Some background for all. SunPork as a business, we started autism from the beginning, so we didn't have any history with autism. So I guess if we were to go back to that point in 2016 now, I think some of our learnings have been that largely it's not about autism, and it's not about autistic people. It really is around your workplace culture. It's around inclusion. It's around flexibility. It's around taking a strength-based approach. And again, back to Clem's comment earlier, it's really about what constitutes a good workplace generally. And I think Rajesh he's just nailed it with everything he's outlined. I was just thinking, that for me would be an ideal workplace. So it's about the workplace generally. It's not about autism. The big learnings is, I think we went in thinking it was all around recruitment. Recruitment is just one very small piece of the pie. Retention is it's a big thing. You need to be aware that it will seem daunting to go through recruitment, but it's that much more resource intensive to go through the retention phase and to keep people in a job, to keep that awareness up in your workplace, to keep supporting people. Everyone's needs will evolve and change. So in the first instance, it's about getting people through the recruitment process. But as time goes on, it's about, as I think Cherie mentioned, or perhaps it was Sahida, it's around, that they may wish to get a license. They might, it might be around relationships. It might be around mental health. It might be around moving house. There's lots of those needs. They're always there. They just change over time. Our other big learnings are that there's a need for very strong support for your neurotypical employees. If you want to be able to support autistic people in the workplace, you need to support your neurotypical employees to support your autistic employees. If they don't understand autism and they're not prepared to to support autistic people, then you're setting yourself up to fail. And it doesn't matter how good your autistic employees are, if they don't have that support around them, it's something you should really consider before you head into an autistic employment program. For our autistic employees, support inside the workplace is really important. So adjusting how you do things to make sure you're being autism friendly, but also, and a big learning for us is there's a lot of support needs outside the workplace. If people aren't comfortable in all aspects of their life, that will come to work. So that's a shift, I guess, in the traditional employment paradigm where your relationship with an employee potentially stops at the gate. For us, it doesn't. It sort of, that line is very blurry now, and there's a lot of support that we provide outside the workplace. It could be shopping, it could be around renting homes, as I said, driving, nutrition, mental health is a really big one, advocacy and supporting individuals for self-advocacy is another one. And our other big learning is that ultimately a lot of where we're at, and I guess this is partly a challenge too to sustainability and scalability, is it really does come down to good people. That can be fantastically rewarding for those that are involved, but it's also challenging because you can't just magic up good people, but it's around being inclusive, strengths focused, being kind, consistent. And I guess you can't make an autism employment program. You need people behind it. And that's been a big learning for us.
Well, thanks, Kirsty, for those insights. And maybe I'll ask the same kind of question for you, Andrew. What are your kind of been your kind of, if you had time again, what would you kind of like to know about starting a program, or what can you share with maybe other people on this viewing this panel?
Oh, thanks, Michael. And I think, like Kirsty's mentioned, I think awareness to the wider organisation is probably our biggest learning. Like, we have done that when we first started, but I think acknowledging that it's really an ongoing thing. Like, we're a large corporate, we have lots of restructures, people change, line managers change all the time from various times throughout their careers, and that's happening with our employees who have come off our program and are in essentially what we call, I guess, mainstream ANZ. They're in the thick of it now. There is, yes, they can still come to our program and our support consultant and ask questions and seek some help, of course, but the people that they move to, we don't necessarily know where they're going straight away. We may not know that they've moved. So having broader awareness across the ANZ group or the organisation, I think would be something we'd like to do, would have done bigger and better somehow. And how we do that is difficult. But with a large organisation, like we had online training and we had some uptake in that, but it was fairly minimal. When our participants now go to areas, we still provide training with our support consultant to them and their teams and the people that the individual's going to work with, and support that individual. But I think, that's the biggest learning, I think, awareness across the organisation.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for that. Now, Kerry, what have you been kind of maybe some of the unexpected benefits you've kind of seen from having a program in the department?
Unexpected benefits. I guess watching the trainees grow and develop has been such a defining benefit for the department. As an example, a couple of our trainees have come in and they wouldn't give you eye contact, and within 6 months they're joking around with the team and they're really part of that family unit, and they enjoy so much coming to work and they give their absolute best. And that's a benefit to the department, because the people, the trainees that have come forward have enhanced the team's ability to share knowledge, to share a cup of tea, to join together and ask questions and become like a family. And I think that's something that I didn't expect. And I've watched that develop and grow with the trainees that we've had in. And although everyone in our team has been asked to join some forum to undertake autism awareness, people have done that, and they've come out from that going, wow, we didn't know that. What a great opportunity. And they are embracing that opportunity more so than I think we all thought. And that's been a benefit, A, for the team members, B, for the trainees, and certainly for the department.
Well, fantastic, Kerry. I've got a couple of questions that are coming through. One of the questions, this is actually directed to you, Kirsty, is really, how has really COVID kind of impacted your business and the actual, the trainees or the program itself? And given that you have a lot of people on the call in this area is very much on effectively IT businesses or using IT, but obviously a very different impact.
Yeah, so it's been almost the total opposite for us. Our farming and food processing businesses have not changed. So people have continued to attend the workplace. So there's been no, you can't feed animals online. Well, we haven't figured that one out yet. There's certainly some significant risks for our business. So we've really had to lock the workplaces down because we need to manage those workplaces to keep COVID out. But what I would comment around our autistic employees through the whole COVID process is just, and I think it was alluded to earlier by Cherie, just their resilience and adaptability. And I don't think we have brought those out in our employees. I think they always had them. I think we've just given them a safe space to develop them. And I've been really impressed. We've all been very impressed by just how easily they have adjusted to the new COVID environment, kept on going to work. If there's been questions, they're happy to raise them. And yeah, I just that watching that resilience grow and that capacity to function in the face of what is, I think, the biggest challenge any of us have ever faced. They have not missed a beat, and I think it's been quite amazing to watch.
Yes, thanks, Kirsty. And I've got probably the last kind of question, maybe a couple. But Sahida, we've got a question for yourself, just really about people self-identifying in the workplace, and what's kind of the processes around that. If people, these are probably not in the program, but within the kind of your current workforce, and what happens after that.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We have had a couple of people in our ANZ business self-identify. So two things. One, it's given them, I think, an environment where they're willing to self-identify. So because we have done training and enablement out there across our broader business in that regard. And get Andrew's point, Andrew Beds, sometimes it's hard to get people to attend that training, but we've looked for executive sponsorship of that. Across all of our locations to try and drive some of that participation. So I think creating that environment where people are willing is important. And then it has been both with them, raising it with their manager and with HR. So because then it is then a determination of the plan. What do we need to do to support them in their work environment? So both with that manager, what enablement and the team that they work within, but also with that individual now an openness to raise concerns that they may not have raised previously, of accommodations that they might want, or things that may have been previously difficult that now they're willing to raise. So I think this whole piece of, it's not just about those that you're bringing into the organisation, but the enablement and that environment that you foster in your organisation, that this is something that is very much acceptable, not only acceptable, desirable, because we desire the thinking and the attributes that our neurodiverse talent bring in, has created that openness. And then it is enablement. It's enablement and support. in that journey. So maybe that's the reflection on that. But I think we have, with those individuals now, come up with individual plans with their managers, etc., as part of that journey. So with the support structure that we have, we brought that into play.
Fantastic. Probably one last question, and then I'll hand it back over to Orion to kind of take over. Just Andrew, just a little one. We've got a question around the use of traditional kind of job applications and interviewing process. How much, what has changed in the program? Just quickly on that.
Yeah, so I think the application process is pretty much all online these days, and we do that for our grads as well. We're using different online tools. We do have some sections for people to request any adjustments that they might require for their interview or going through the steps. So our T&C HR teams are quite adaptable to that. We've got some work to do in the background to improve that a lot more, but I think that's some of the biggest changes. So we're seeing grads apply who are neurodiverse and not having the barriers that probably they once would have had.
Fantastic. First, I'd like to thank the whole panel for all your time and energy in it, and I really hope that the audience got something from it. I always learn something myself. And Rajesh, thank you very much for dialing in late in the evening. Do appreciate that, you being on the other side of the globe. And very much thank you. And I'll hand it over to Ryan.
Well, thank you. Fantastic, guys. Great work. You're dismissed. Thank you very much, Michael. Kirsty, great job, Kirsty. Andrew, thank you, Zahida. Thank you, Kerry, and your beautiful dog. And also thank you to, don't worry, Kerry, it was fine. I love him, or her. And Sherry, my heart goes out to you, Sherry. 8 days in lockdown. As a Victorian, I sincerely send my sorrow and regret that you've had to endure 8 days of lockdown as we tick over. What is it, 200? Help me. And Rajesh, you're the man. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. What a great discussion. No, seriously, guys, can you turn your cameras off? I'm sick of looking at you laugh at all my jokes. It's really off-putting. But just a quick reflection. Kirsty, stop laughing and go. Just a quick reflection. Look, from my point of view, I always ask, because I'm an autistic person. That's all I can say. And I always say, look, do you want to hire Joe Bloggs or do you want to hire Steve Jobs? In the end, that's what it comes down to. Do you want Joe Bloggs or do you want Steve Jobs? I can't give you Joe Bloggs. I can only give you an autistic experience of employment. And I often ask the question, do you have a HR policy for autistic employees? Because a lot of times I feel like as an autistic person in a workplace, I can be put through the HR world of neurotypical expectations. And I think the HR policy for every company for autistic employees, it has to be for both neurotypical and autistic people, because as Kirsty and people have rightly pointed out, you need neurotypical employees to understand also the differences in autistic employees. So I think it's a win-win for businesses and corporations to provide what I like to call the mind ramps. It's one thing that you have to put in ramps for, let's say there's someone who isn't able-bodied, who has a wheelchair. Well, it's a given that they will get ramps at work, right? But it's not a given that you will provide me mind ramps at work without providing, they're all writing it down. I've already copyrighted that, so stop writing it down. But the bottom line is, this is not a joke. This is important. What mind ramps are you actually providing for your autistic employees? And why isn't it a given? I've got a disability. It's diagnosed. There's ramps for those people with disabilities. Where's my ramps? Do I have to beg for them? Do I have to advocate for them? So I think from my point of view, it's a fantastic discussion. And for the people watching, I think this is the most important thing that I hope that people watching, you don't have to be like the people you've watched talk. You just need to understand that things can be done. It's not that hard, and it's a win-win. Because I know what we're all doing here, where we're all trying to do business. It's a win-win if you can just look at that and I guess embrace it.